The first half of the Orlando Magic season did not go to plan, but the second half is still out there to make something happen. Part 2 of the conversation with Jason Beede, the Orlando Sentinel, today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is January 20th. It will be January 21st, 2026. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2012 season. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we look forward to the second half of the Orlando Magic season. We looked back yesterday. We're looking forward today how the Magic make the most of the second half of the season. We're going to discuss that with Jason Beede of the Orlando Sentinel in part 2 of our conversation coming up today on Locked On Magic. Before you end that, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. We thank you for being one of our Orlando Magic dailies, our everydayers who listen every single day that we post, Monday through Friday, as well as occasionally on the weekends, as well as those of you who make us part of your regular podcast rotation or your first listen of the day. Join our Everydayer Club to take your Locked On Magic experience to the next level. Details are in the show notes. And thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll get back to our conversation with Jason Beede here in just a moment, but I want to start by making this one point, or make this one statement, this overarching statement, to kind of recap what we talked a little bit about yesterday before we dive into the future. If you haven't listened, go back in our archives just one day ago. Had Jason Beede, the Orlando Sentinel, on it, and we discussed a little bit about where the Magic have been this year. And I asked him to describe this season in sort of one word. And there are a lot of words that you can use to describe this season. This season has not lived up to the billing. And I think the Magic would be the first group of people to tell you that they have not lived up to their expectations. They have not met the standard that they have set for themselves. Yet, as I mentioned yesterday, here we are. As I'm recording this before games tip off on Tuesday, the Orlando Magic are a game and a half back of 3rd in the Eastern Conference, as well as a game and a half ahead of 8th in the Eastern Conference, sitting cozily in 6th at the moment. To say the least, for all the struggles and all the frustration and all the inconsistency, the Orlando Magic still have everything they want to accomplish in front of them. Even a 50-win season would take some doing. I think they'd have to go 27 in, 27 and 14, I think, to get there. But that's not impossible. So maybe the 50-win season is the only thing we throw out. Maybe the idea that this team could sneak and win a championship this year, maybe you throw that out a little bit. But every goal that we set for this team, that the team set for themselves more than what we set as external media or fans or whoever, all of that is still plainly in front of them. They can still accomplish everything they want to accomplish this year. Winning a playoff series, getting home court advantage, all very doable. And I think we can all agree, and again, I think the Magic would agree with this too, they have left something on the table through the first 42 games of the season. There is a lot more that they can do. Now, certainly some of the reason they've left something on the table is because of health. They've had a ton of injuries to key players. It's one thing if you're missing some bit rotation players, but they've had a ton of injuries to key players. They know they can play better defense. They know they can execute these things better. They know they can play more consistently, and it's on them to reach that goal. And so, like, I've been having conversations with Magic fans. I have a lot of conversations. I read your comments. I try to respond where a response is necessary. So don't be offended if I don't respond, but I try to respond where responses are necessary. The Magic don't have anywhere to look but inward, but at themselves. And so as they begin the second half of their season, as they look ahead to the next 3 months, the next 40 games, everything they want, they've done well enough, as poorly as they've played, they've done well enough to still have a chance to accomplish everything. They have. This isn't a time to be desperate. This isn't a time to give in to despair, but it is also a time for accountability. I don't ask this question to Jason, but I think the theme of the next 40 games, the theme of the next 3 months, the theme that's going to define the rest of this season is accountability. Are the Orlando Magic going to live up to their standards? Paolo Banchero said it in London, even after they got beat by the Memphis Grizzlies as badly as they got beat in that game on Sunday. We know we can play a lot better. All of our goals are still in front of us, and we still believe that we can accomplish them. I mean, he went out and said it. We still believe we can win a championship. That feels far-fetched at this point. But you get to the playoffs and you get deep in the playoffs, anything can happen because you're just playing with so much confidence and playing so well. Getting there is going to take everybody playing their role. It's going to take everybody doing their job. It's going to take, yes, their leadership, management, coaching staff, top players, veteran players, role players. It's going to take everybody holding themselves accountable to the standards that they have set. And that is what has been most disappointing of the start of this season. That the Magic haven't held themselves to that high standard. The Magic haven't kept the standards that they set for themselves throughout the course of the last 4 years to build up to this point. I made this point at the end of yesterday's episode. And again, if you didn't listen to yesterday's part 1 with Jason Beede, the Orlando Sentinel, I would urge you to do so because we'll probably reference the conversation. I kind of cut it in half. I edited it in half. I mentioned this yesterday. This Orlando Magic team, for as poorly as they're playing, have one losing streak longer than 2 games. That was the opening losing streak where they went 1-4. This Magic team has been playing really poorly for the last 6 weeks, but they've just treaded water. They're 500, 9-9 over their last 18 games. That's not good enough. That's not where this team wants to be. But last year at this time of year, when the Magic struggled and they succumbed to their injuries, they lost 9 of 11. This team didn't lose 9 of 11. They lost 9 of 18. It's put them in a better position to make that leap. But that leap isn't going to come automatically. And that is the most important thing to remember. If the Magic are going to be the team that we all thought they were going to be, it's not just going to click your heels. You got the overall ratings on 2K. It's not just going to happen. You have to earn it. Every practice, every game, every play, every quarter, every half, literally every play, you have to earn it. And that is something this team inherently understood when they were the underdogs. When they had to play harder than everyone else to make up for talent deficits or for something else. This team is the favorite. This team is still favored, if I'm not mistaken. And I got FanDuel read coming up, so let me pull that up. This team is still favored to finish 3rd or 4th in the East. Probably 4th in the East right now. This team is still favored to go deep into the playoffs. Among Eastern Conference teams, the Magic are 5th behind the Cleveland Cavaliers in odds. The top odds teams are all the same teams: Detroit, Boston, New York, Cleveland, Orlando, Philadelphia. Those are your top 6. Everyone still expects big things out of the Magic and the Cavs, who have both struggled through inconsistency to start the year. And both teams should feel like, as bad as we played, we can still do everything that we want to do. You got 40 more games to prove it, though. And no one's going to prove it for you. You've got to prove it every single game. So let's get back into it. We'll talk to Jason Beede of the Orlando Sentinel coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. It is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before that window closes from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Fridays. It's right before the weekend, so it's a great way to get things started and adds extra energy to those already exciting Friday night games. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That is NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. We want to thank you once again for making Locked On Magic your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. You've heard us all across the Locked On podcast network talking about this. It is your way to become more embedded in the Locked On community, especially if you're a Locked On Magic fan. Become embedded in our growing Locked On Magic community. You get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Magic, so things just flow right naturally, especially when I have guests on. I get rid of the ad breaks that I cut in. A conversation just flows the way that it flowed when I recorded it. You can check that out, compatible with all major podcast apps, and you get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. I pop in I'm there all the time, so if you ever have any questions, that's the best way to reach me. And I'll drop in with Discord exclusive thoughts after every quarter for the rest of the games this season, except for Saturday's game against Cleveland, which I will not be watching live. I'll explain that later on in the week. This is your chance to take your Locked On fandom to the next level. Go to lockedonmagic.supercast.com. That's lockedonmagic.supercast.com, or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. And now let's get to it. Long delayed. Let's get to it. Here's Jason Beede of the Orlando Sentinel. So, the inconsistency is maddening because we know how good this team can be. I think even in this kind of win-loss thing that they've been doing, the Magic have pulled some games out that maybe they shouldn't have. They've blown some leads they shouldn't have. There's work to do, but we can see how good this team is going to be. And so maybe this is the right time to shift to probably the conversation of the year for Magic fans. It feels unavoidable. And I've constantly said to people, it's not happening. Nothing's going to happen mid-season. I think this is mostly the roster they're going to have for the year. I think you and I, trade deadline prediction, they're going to dump someone's salary to get under the tax, and that's about all they're going to do. I think they'll probably fill that 15th roster spot with someone off the buyout market. I think they'll try and find another wing shooter, maybe to stabilize what Tristan da Silva is supposed to be, because he's been so up and down. Maybe get another kind of point, try and find a point of attack defender, someone who can hold their own defensively, that can hit a shot. Gary Harris. But don't act crazy if that happens. But this is largely the roster it's going to be. And so no more dancing around it. It feels like this season, and especially the way this second half of the season ends, and especially the playoffs, because I don't know how you feel. I've always felt this season was always going to be a referendum on Jamahl Mosley, for better or for worse. And it was never going to be about what he did in the regular season. It was going to be about, is this team pointing in the direction of a championship level team? And how do they perform in the playoffs? I don't think Jeff Weltman thinks this way, that if they lose in the first round, they're just going to make a change to make a change. I think context does matter a little bit, but I don't think it's like a second round or bust, although it certainly ramps the pressure up if they don't win a playoff series. I don't think that's crazy to say. What is your assessment then of this conversation around Jamahl Mosley? Is it warranted, or is it just fans venting their frustration to the only thing that is probably realistic to change?
It's hard to say. I think there is, I don't want to say a growing inevitability, because Jamahl Mosley has been great to the media, and we enjoy talking with him. And even though he does say a lot of the same things over and over again, he's treated us kindly. But it does feel like the only way he's going to survive this season is if they make the Eastern Conference Finals, in my opinion. And I know this is something that happened to JB Bickerstaff a couple of years ago when Cleveland beat Orlando in 7 games. They got to the second round and he was still fired. And I don't want to just compare his situation to that situation, but it's a recent, move that feels really familiar to Orlando. And maybe it's coincidence that they're best friends and whatnot and so similar, and they're both defensive minded coaches. But
and the Magic and Cavs are probably going to play each other in that 4-5 series again.
Right. I just really want to get back to Cleveland. Have I said that yet?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Go set us up.
And this isn't based on like any insider information. We're not looking to get aggregated here. I just think, to your point, I agree. It's based on postseason success. And when you make a move in the offseason where 4 first-round picks are moved to a player like Desmond Bane, like that was their all-in move. Like I really wouldn't anticipate, just again, not saying we have any inside sources here. We're just saying, knowing how Jeff Weltman moves, knowing how the Magic typically move, that was their big swing for the season. They're still going to make some roster tweaks. They're still going to try and, get under the tax. They're going to try and fill that 15th roster spot. And maybe those players, perhaps veteran pieces, can really help stabilize this group that we've seen be so inconsistent. I mean, I think I've said this before, like we talked about Gary Harris as a point of attack defender. I mean, Gary Harris was cool, calm, and collective in that Magic locker room. And who is that guy right now? I know it should be Paolo and Franz, but Tyus Jones is a new player on this team, and Jonathan Isaac is the most, is the longest tenured player, but he was never really that leader type guy where you had Gary Harris, or even going back to Markelle Fultz. I mean, who's the voice in the locker room? So maybe adding a veteran guy as the 15th player helps this team a lot more than maybe not even on the court, but just in the locker room and their confidence and the togetherness of this group and whatnot. But I would agree. It's going to be based on postseason success for Jamahl Mosley. And I think at the end of the day, like, I don't even think this is a reflection of Jeff Altman. I think this is any president of basketball operations role. Like, that person, whoever it is going to not trade their star players or their drafted prospects or their big offseason swings. They're going to fire their coach before those players are moved, right? And that's not even the Magic situation. I'm just saying that's how GMs or presidents or whatever the executive position is described as. That's how they're going to work, and that's how we've seen it in the past. So, then down the line you can say this isn't working. You blow it all up, and the Magic start over again. We're a while away. We're
ways away from that.
We're way away from that.
We're not close to that.
But I think, to my point earlier about this team not quitting on the season yet, they haven't quit on Jamahl Mosley. There have been some moments of frustrations and rumors and things like that, but I think they're all grown men. They're all adults in the room. They understand that they're not playing the way they want to, and it's been frustrating at times. But at the same time, this team hasn't quit on Jamahl Mosley. They enjoy playing for him. They like playing for him. They want to that no one wants him gone, right? And I think until you get that point, yes, as weird as this season has been, I don't think either of us have gotten the sense that there's a true vendetta against him in the locker room. I mean, this is a group that's extremely close knit and wants to play for one another. It hasn't turned out the way they wanted to on the court, and there are questions about efforts and how much of that is, maybe if there was a different voice in the locker room as from a coaching perspective, how much would that change effort and energy and those sorts of things? Or is that not coachable? Is effort and energy a decision upon the player? I mean, that's the thing. But to Jamahl's credit, he also hired Shamgod, who completely is responsible for Anthony Black's, offensive outburst, and Joe Prunty has done some things to this offense that's helped them a lot. At the same time, I don't know how much the offense has changed. I think we've talked about that at times, but there have been some different plays that they've run that, maybe they wouldn't have in the past. But this is going to come down to postseason success. And a lot of that does reflect on regular season positioning and home court, not having home court. And they understand more than anyone else how important that can be. And that's something that I think if they didn't get home court, If you said that before the season, that would be, disappointing. But if they finish 5th right now, you'd be relatively pleased, I think. And then from there on, like whatever happens to the postseason, it's going to come up to matchups and context and things like that. But
in this Eastern Conference, like with how tight it is, like the 6 seed and the 3 seed are going to be separated by a game and a half, or not game and a half because you can't have a half game. It's going to be separated by a game or two.
Right. It's going to be tight.
It's going to be tight the rest of the way. And so like you can still win. Like Indiana showed this last year. They were the 4 seed and made the finals. And they were the 4 seed in that instance. But you can be a 6 seed. You're probably not going to win a championship as a 6 seed. Like that's tough.
But you can make a run.
You can make a run still. Yeah. Right. Like it's not impossible. It's harder. Don't get it wrong. It's harder, but it's not impossible at all. We're going to take a quick break from our conversation with Jason Beede of the Orlando Sentinel. Tell you a little bit more about Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. Everyone sees a full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal, and it works right from your phone or computer. You can even keep your existing number. It's no surprise Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's Quo, QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. To that point then, what do the Magic need to do? What's happened has happened. Like, stop here. Like, this is, again, great stopping point. You get a week off, essentially. You get 4 days off between games now, which is so rare in the NBA because they're coming back from London. What do the Magic need to do to make this a successful season the rest of the way?
I think something that would help, this isn't all on the players, right? Like, we're not clearing, even though neither of us believe that, if they lose the next 3 games, Jamahl's going to get fired. And like, let's be clear, like this franchise, the way they've worked under Jeff Altman and recently, like they're not a team that's going to make some rash decision, at the All-Star break, say, or something like that. Like that would be surprising to me. But like, this is not a reactionary group. Like, and I think Jamahl and this group have earned the right to play this season through. They've earned the right to make it and see what happens in the postseason. And, some fans might be saying, well, that's just a waste of time. But I think they truly believe in themselves. And, Paolo said it in London. They believe they can still make it all the way. They just have to figure some things out. And on Jamahl's point, I think, the player availability and Jalen, and that's hurt his rotations, things like that. But I think he does have to define roles a little bit more. And who's coming off the bench and things like that. I know he likes to talk about, flow of the game. And sometimes that is good coaching too, right? If you have a feel of the game and what's needed in any given moment. But I think it's been a little too inconsistent. I know that's some of it's injuries. I get that. But at the same time, I think on from a coaching perspective, it needs to be more defined. Everything needs to be more defined. And then from a player perspective, they need to play more consistently with energy and effort and care and a sense of urgency. I mean,
yeah, the urgency is the bigger thing.
If they come out on Thursday against Charlotte and they're down double digits at any point in that first half, okay, maybe we can start asking some, different questions here. But the sense of urgency,
the jet lag,
I don't know. I understand they're gonna be jet lagged and things like that.
Yeah, but like if they miss look, there's a difference between urgency, energy, and execution.
Right.
If they're losing games because shots aren't falling, make or miss league, right, that stuff happens. Like they played Charlotte a couple weeks ago. Charlotte made 40% of their threes. That wasn't a good effort game either. But Charlotte also made an unreal number of shots. Memphis, like in these last 2 games, Memphis is not a good 3-point shooting team. Like the Magic have suffered from some bad 3-point shooting luck lately. Memphis made a ton of threes in the first half on Thursday in Berlin. They made a ton of threes throughout the game Sunday. That's not something they usually do now. Some of that, the Magic's defense, absolutely. The Magic had to defend better, but they also made some shots. New Orleans is it's New Orleans and Portland, I believe, are the 2 worst 3-point shooting teams in the league. New Orleans made 40% of their threes in that getaway game a week ago.
Yeah.
Like that stuff happens. Now, that's 3 straight games where bad 3-point shooting teams made threes. That is concerning. I'm not absolving the defense. But if it comes down to like, oh, they made shots, we missed shots, like that's not good, but you stomach it. You're just like, okay, bad day at the office. It happens. What can happen is they're outworking you. Like they're getting every offensive rebound. They're getting loose balls. They're turning you over. Like it can't be energy that's the problem. It has to be, oh, we didn't make shots. You lose because you missed shots. Not ideal, but whatever. And to me, like, again, like that's been the bigger problem this year is that too many games it's oh, the Magic missed shots, that's why they lost. It's oh no, like Washington beat you to every offensive rebound. You turn the ball over 18 times when you're supposed to be a top 10 turnover team in the league. That's slipped considerably in the last 2-3 weeks. That's the stuff that can't happen anymore. And like that energy, that urgency has to be there.
It's a need for more precise basketball. I mean, it's getting the defensive rebound. It's finishing out possessions. It's finishing at the rim. I mean, the layups that were missed in Europe were just astounding to watch. I mean, too hard off the glass, whatever it might be. And that's just as bad as a turnover because the other team goes the other direction when a Magic player is complaining about not getting a call or can't believe they didn't get the call or whatever it might be. They just need to I think change the mental perspective of this is going to be easy. We're going to get every call. We're going to make every shot to no, let's just stick to the basics, stick to the fundamentals, rebound the right way, finish at the rim the right way, go back to being, a good free throw shooting team as we saw at a certain stretch of the season, go back to finishing and being one of the better paint scoring teams. And then that's when you start to see the 3-point shooting come back because then teams are going to pack the paint. And then you see the benefits of a player like Desmond Bane and the improvements of Franz and Paolo from 3. And, I know not Paolo specifically, but especially Franz.
Paolo over the last 4 weeks.
Recently he's been better. But I think it's like they're trying to skip steps. They're trying to just shoot threes and hit home runs. It's about hitting singles to talk baseball here. I mean, it's about grabbing the bases, getting out, adding the little things up to the big thing. It's not just gonna come in one big swing. It's gonna take time and you have to earn it. I mean, as much as you talk about, Paolo said the other day how helpful, how big it would be if they could get a few wins in a row here and go on a streak. It's like, okay, but it's going to take one possession at a time, one game at a time to do that. And we just haven't seen that consistent level of play yet from this team. So I think when you talk about the coaching, going back to my point about definitive roles and here's what we're going to do on any given night, I think that would help the players and their confidence and the plan of attack. Like what's the goal? What's the desired outcome? They know they want to win the game, but how do they get from point A to point B? And I think when you get more consistency from that end, you're going to see it more consistently on the court. I mean, it's about fundamentals right now for this team. It's about rebounding. It's about finishing around the rim. And that everything else with that comes when you play more precise basketball, taking care of the ball. And I know this is extremely basic stuff, but right now this is where that team is. And but that's how you build consistency. It's just like in life. You do the right, you do the basics.
It's process over results.
Right.
Process over results. You do the things you're supposed to do and do them well. Everything else becomes easier. And it's that simple.
And things have been so difficult for this team right now recently. And I know a lot of it has to do without, you're down Franz Wagner, you're down Jalen Suggs and things like that, but you can't just rely on one or two guys to be the energy provider or to be the difference maker. I mean, over the course of a season, different guys are going to step up at different times. So as they get healthier, that's going to help, obviously, but it's going to come down to the players and whether or not they want this.
Let's end here then, because we haven't talked enough about probably the 2 most important players on the team. what do the Magic need from Paolo and Franz specifically? Like, yes, they are 23 and 24 years old. They're still incredibly young, but we expected them both to be all-stars this year, and neither of them are going to Los Angeles. Maybe that's a good thing. They need the rest, but neither of them are going to Los Angeles this year. In all likelihood. I don't want to say for sure, but in all likelihood, neither of them are going. What do the Magic need from their stars to get over this hump and be the team they think they can be and everyone else thinks they can be?
Yeah, I think we need to see them play the way they did down the stretch of the second half of last season, maybe the final 20 games, where it just felt like, okay, we're going to take this, we're going to take over. And it doesn't have to be as fun as it has been to see the leap Anthony Black has taken. It kind of feels like AB's kind of grabbed the ball and taken it with charge. I mean, we need to see Franz and Paolo, especially Paolo. I know Paolo has been playing better as of recently, but these are the guys who you're paying max money to, right? And credit to AB for taking the ball and saying, I'm going to go score then. If you guys aren't going to play with the right energy or the right effort. I mean, we've seen Franz, as like I said, as he gets back, he's going to be fine. And Paolo has been playing better recently, but I think these two guys, even though Desmond Bane and Jalen Suggs are the Robins to the Batmans, I think these two have to be the ones setting the example. They have to be the one defending it at a high level. They have to be the one, doing all the right steps, putting the right work in. I'm not saying they don't do that right now, but they have to do it consistently. And I think, obviously when they had that stretch of games where they were really, having a lot of success, Franz was the one that was, leading the charge. And, there was so much mixed narrative about that. They had gone 5-2 before Paolo got hurt. Like, they had already figured it out. I know a lot of national media kind of overlooked that and said, look, it's Franz. But Paolo was just as important to turning that stretch of the season around as Franz was, because guess what? When guys, as simple as it sounds, when teams have their best players on the court, they're more than likely going to do well. And Paolo and Franz at the end of the day are the stars of this team. And when they're the ones setting the examples and setting the tone, they're the ones that, change the whole aspect of this team. That's when Jalen Suggs can take 7-8 threes and defend at a high level. That's when Desmond Bane can get more open looks, because we haven't seen him be the shooter that we expect him to be. He's
had to be on the ball a lot more.
Right. And that's when
they had that stat during the game Sunday that Dez has taken the most layups among guards in the league. And I haven't double checked that stat, so I'm hesitant to repeat it, but it was just is that true? Is that right? It makes sense. And they want to get the 3-point shots up. And I agree. Jamahl Mosley needs to do more to set up 3-pointers for Desmond Bane. That's going to help everyone else anyway with the split actions that they do. But he's had to be on the ball more because they need guys who can attack downhill, because for the most part of the season, they've been missing 2 of them.
Right. And that's where, as great as it has been to see AB get love from most improved player, he should be getting love as well for 6th man, but he's had to start so many games. It's his, with Jalen out. But, I think when you go back to when this team has been fully healthy, it hasn't happened much this year. I know when they were quote unquote fully healthy, they didn't have Mo back. Now they do. So when they do get Jalen back, it'll be all 14 guys, I guess. I wanted to say 15.
Be the healthiest the team's been since October 31st, 2024.
Exactly. So when you talk about that, I think it's important to remember that context, but at the same time, this is Paolo and Franz's team. They are the 2 best players. They have proven. You can now look at recent, some of those plus minus numbers that people love looking at on social media, which, by the way, kids don't do that. But when you look at that stuff, it's working out in their favor when they're both on the court. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. It's been their best. It's been their best season together, I think, of their
right. And that's not by accident, right? They've now played together for multiple years, and they've both proven that they can, play in the postseason and take over games. But I think for this team to be consistently good and go on a win streak, it's going to come down to those 2 setting the example of doing everything the right way. And we've seen that from them before. So that's why I don't doubt that they can't do it again. And that's going to really help this team. That's when you're going to see this team, take the step in the right direction and not the other direction, which is where, I know they won 2 in a row, but we talked about it earlier, the win-loss. It's going to break one way or the other. I don't think we're out of it yet in terms of that. I know they won 2 in a row, but
they're going to have a stretch of 7 of 12.
Yes.
And it's going to go one
It's going to be wins or losses.
And if they win 7 of 12, they'll be in great shape.
Right.
If they lose 7 of 12, we're going to be probably talking playing. Like
yeah,
it's
that's going to be the difference. And I think what they need from Paolo and Franz is they need Paolo and Franz to be Paolo and Franz, the difference makers, the leaders of this team. And I know they've both talked about being leaders and they're, working in that area, but it's their team. They have to act like it. And that's what I think we'll see from them.
And I think ultimately, like, that's going to be the biggest thing to come out of this season beyond just where they end up. Like, this is a multi-year journey to a championship. If that's where the Magic ultimately end up, it's not something that happens overnight. You got to fail to learn how to win. Like, that's just time immemorial. The only team I can think of that like won immediately when they came together was the 2008 Celtics. And you could argue like, well, Kevin Garnett had a lot of playoff, trials. Paul Pierce had his playoff trials. Like Ray Allen had his playoff trials. Like those guys had playoff scars. And so you're building some playoff scars. And so I think, like, for me, the biggest thing I want to see from Paolo and Franz, and this is where I've kind of hit Paolo the most as a critic or as a challenge, is I need to see maturity from them. I need to see them understand their responsibility and their role as leaders on this team. And that's really hard to ask of 23 and 24-year-olds. But at some point, you got to pass the baton to those guys and say, hey, you're the leaders. We're going to follow you. Right. So what do you do with that responsibility? And I think that's been one of quietly, it's intangible. I can't put numbers on it. I can just say like, well, this is just what it feels like. That quietly feels like it's been the story of the season are these players that the Magic have invested so massively in, which they deserve, they earned that. Are they ready for the extra and added responsibilities that come with that? And how do you as a franchise get the most out of those players to find out if they even are the guys that you think they are? And that's kind of what the discovery of this season has been to this point.
Yep.
There's obviously a lot of questions. There'll be a lot more to happen. We got 40 more games. It's a long time. A lot of basketball left to play. A lot going to happen this season. Obviously, the Magic, not where they want to be, but still very much in the race. Jason, it is always great to catch up with you. Always good to get this checkup on where the Magic are at in the season. Read Jason's stuff over at the Orlando Sentinel. If you're not subscribed to them, he obviously does a fantastic job covering the Magic. And, as always, we'll see you in the finals. As always, I want to thank Jason Beede of the Orlando Sentinel for jumping on the show with us, breaking down the Orlando Magic. Like I said yesterday, I believe, Jason and I are the daily beat guys. We are there. Jason travels more than I do, but we are there for every Magic moment. We are the guys that are constantly overthinking this team, probably as much as you are, if not more. So it's great to get his insight and share some thoughts on that as well. Just again, that conversation, those are conversations we have in the media room all the time. This is the Magic insight I hope that you are looking for. So hope you enjoyed the last 2 episodes with Jason Beede. Again, follow his work at the Orlando Sentinel, OrlandoSentinel.com/sports, as well as on Twitter and on Blue Sky, I believe, at The Real Beede, Beede. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the makes you download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can find us on YouTube as well. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. There you will get an extra article, a newsletter article every day on the Orlando Magic, Monday through Friday. Every day, Monday through Friday on the Orlando Magic, plus access to the Discord server there. If that's not your cup of tea, check out our Everydayer Club as well at lockedonmagic.supercast.com. Again, ad-free audio version of the podcast, as well as access to a Discord server for Locked On Magic fans. I am posting stuff in both Discord servers. So as long as you're subscribed to one of my subscription services, you're going to be getting the Discord experience that hopefully you are looking for. As always, thank you. Thank you so much for your support. That's good. That's good to do for me today. For those of you on video, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen NBA game night on Locked On NBA. Pretty soon the Magic will be playing a game. I promise. We're not done with the season yet. It feels like it's been forever. But we'll see the Magic in action on Thursday against the Charlotte Hornets. Again, check out NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. That's going to do it for me today, though. We'll be back again tomorrow. We'll talk about questions the Magic face over their next 20 games, questions for the third quarter of the season, plus get an update from the Orlando Magic at practice. We'll see what they have to say as they get back to work, as they reacclimate to being stateside instead of across the pond there. So we'll hear from the Magic as well. We'll have all of that covered here on Locked On Magic tomorrow. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.